Hello, students. I am coming to you today to talk to you about something that definitely causes stress in any real estate class. And so you will not be the first if this sort of creates a stress reaction for you. But there is math in the class. Now, one of the things I want to mention is that I don't want you to place too much of an emphasis on the math. I don't want you to get so focused on math that you neglect to do other things in the class. The reality is the math is less than about 10% of the examination. There are about 8 math questions, or 9, depending on which version of the exam you see. There's just not a ton. That being said, I want you to get those 8 or 9 correct because they can really help bail you out a lot with some of the other questions, which are more sort of debatable. The good thing about math is there's always a right answer and there's always a wrong answer. One of the things I've found in teaching the class over the years, though, is that sometimes people just shut down when it comes to math in particular. Maybe because it's not been something they've enjoyed in the past. Maybe they didn't understand it. Maybe it made them feel lost or, less than capable somehow. But I assure you that you can do the math in this class. All of you can do the math in this class. And you don't need anything more complex than a basic 4-function calculator. So something like this is going to be all you need. This is as complex as it needs to be. And truthfully, that's as complex as it can be if you are going to take it into the license exam with you. Now, one of the things I really highly recommend is you go ahead and start working with the calculator that you plan to use for the exam now. Start now, because this operates differently than the calculator app on your phone does, or even than the calculator app on your computer does. And so you need to get accustomed to the tool that you're going to be using. But I'm going to show you what I hope are some tips and tricks that will really kind of even it out and make it so that it doesn't matter whether you're using handheld calculator that you're going to have to use on the test, or calculator on your phone, or the calculator built into the computer, that hopefully we can create a comfort level with you. No matter what tool you're faced with, you'll be good to go with it. So what I'm going to do now is share some slides with you, and these slides can be found in Learn Test Pass. I'm going to place a unit in there specially called Math Introduction, and it's going to have these slides, and it'll be called Math Introduction and Math Formulas. And I'm going to share those slides with you, and we're not going to go through the entire packet because there'll be a lot of formulas that we'll use later on in the class. But what I do want to do is go through the introduction part and how we're going to think about math questions in this class. And then there's a little worksheet just to kind of get you accustomed to working with percentages in particular that we're going to go through and make sure you're comfortable answering, because very quickly coming up, you're going to be expected to be able to do some math calculations for real in the class. And we don't want you to start that being already behind, at least emotionally and mentally, when it comes to math. So let me go ahead and share my slides with you here. And let's talk about how math is going to be handled throughout this class. Just some very basic sort of introductory pieces of things of how math is going to work, how you're going to see things presented, because what you're going to recognize, at least I hope you're going to recognize, is that these things become very predictable in how they are presented to you on this test. And you can use that, predictability in your favor. Now, one of the things that I think is really, really important when it comes to math in this class is understanding that if you just will take the time to read the words and restate it in your own words, you will often find that the math kind of takes care of itself. One of the first real clues that I can give you as far as helping you on this test is the word of. When you get a math question in this class, almost all of our math questions deal with percentages in one way or another. And when you see the word of, you should really, your ears, your eyes, your mind should perk up, because the word of is going to tell you what your math step is going to be. You won't have to guess. You won't have to say, okay, do I multiply? Do I divide? What do I do with these two numbers? When you see the word of, you're going to multiply. Of means multiplication. So I just gave you a quick example here. It says, I'm paying my agent 6% of the sales price on my house. So right here, I'm paying my agent 6% of the sales price. And there's that word we talk about, of. Well, what we can do is just substitute multiplication for the word of. So the math is going to be 6%, take out the word of, put the multiplication sign in there, 6% times sales price. Whatever the sales price is, we're going to multiply that times 6%. And we know that simply because we said to ourselves, okay, 6% of the sales price, and of means multiply. That is a huge sort of strategy for you if you struggle with math. Now, I know some of you who are watching this are like, I don't need this. And if you don't, that's great. Feel free to skip it. But many of you do need this, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. What's not okay is shutting down about it. How hard is it to say, well, when I see of, I'm just going to substitute a multiplication symbol for the word of. So 6% times the sales price. Now, I still don't know what the sales price is, but I bet if you read further into the question, they're probably going to give you the sales price, or at least give you some way to get to the sales price. So look at an example here. It says, Sam purchased 15 of the available lots, which were priced at $72,500 each. How much did he spend? Okay, so step one for me is always, I'm going to look and find the question. What are they asking me for here? What is it that they want to know? Because that's really important. How much did he spend? So they want to know total amount spent. That's their goal in asking me this question. And I know that he's buying 15 lots, and they told me in advance already that he's paying $72,500 each. Okay. 15 of the lots, and there's that word of, at $72,500 each. Well, we know that the word of means multiply. So can't we just say, okay, 15 of those lots at $72,500 each is the same thing as 15 times, because all we did was substituted here the word of for the multiplication symbol. 15 times $72,500. Now, if you type that into your calculator exactly like that, 15 times 72,500, you'll come up with the correct answer, which is $1,087,500 spent on the lots. The other thing is, in this class, don't be intimidated by big numbers. It's a big number class. I mean, land is expensive. We're dealing with hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars on transactions. So I think you just have to accept the numbers are going to be big, but that doesn't matter. The calculator's doing the calculation for you. Shouldn't matter if there are 8 numbers or 3 numbers or 12 numbers. The calculator does all that for you. You know, you're just simply going to type the numbers into the calculator. And if I type 15 times 72,500, I get $1,087,500. There's my final answer. And it all came simply because I knew that word of. Now, I understand logically you might have known how to do that anyway, but I just want to show you that if you get stuck on a question, you're like, I don't know if I multiply or if I divide or add, or I don't know what to do. Look for your words. Look at it. Is the word of in there? The word of is in there. That's a pretty good sign that you need to be multiplying. So take a look at another one. Lots in the neighborhood where Jill works are 43,560 square feet each. She has 12 of the lots to sell. How many total square feet of land does Jill, have for sale? So we said I'm always looking for my question first. Where's my question? How many total square feet of land does Jill have for sale? There's my question. I need to answer my own question. In my own words, I need to say, okay, well, she has 12 lots, 12 of those lots, and each one of them has 43,560. There's my word again, 12 of the lots. So just do some substitution. 12 of becomes 12 times the 43,560 that each one of them is. That's a grand total of 522,720 square feet that Jill has for sale. And again, you might have already known how to do that. Great. But if you didn't, if you even hovered for just a second and had to think about it, looking for that word of is going to give you a big clue on how to deal with a question like this. And the good news is the word of is not the only one that's going to give you clues like that. The word per. Whenever you see this word per in a math question or a statement about math in this class, per means divide. Of means multiply. Per means divide. So whenever you see the word per, you can substitute the division symbol for it. Again, just substitute and say, okay, I see per, that means divide. So Travis paid $385,000 for his house and bought 2,500 square feet. What is his cost per square foot? So right here, there's the question. What is his cost per square foot? And not only is that the question, but there's that word we know means something. Per, that means divide. So cost per square foot is the same thing as cost divided by square foot. Which, if we wanted to do the math, we could say, okay, well, the cost is $385,000 per, which means divide, 2,500 square feet. Oops, 2,500 square feet. I'm going to take my handy dandy calculator. $385,000 divided by 2,500 square feet. That is $154 per square foot. We're paying $154 per square foot. Simple math. And you know exactly what to do with it because the word per is a giveaway. It's a gimme. And looking at how many times we can apply that. Jess needs to purchase a total of 2 million square feet. Big number, meant to intimidate us. So what? Jess needs to purchase a total of 2 million square feet of land for her development. This requires her to have a budget of $7,500,000. Based on this information, what is her cost per square foot? Well, there's our question. What is her cost per square foot? And we know that cost per square foot is the same thing as cost divided by square feet. Cost divided. And so we have a total cost of $750,000. And notice I just brought that down. Her budget, her cost was $750,000. There's that. I'm just substituting in. And then it says she bought a total of 2 million square feet. So there's my 2 million square feet. And the only word between the two of them is per. That means division. So $7,500,000 divided by 2 million square feet, that's $3.75 per square foot. And the word per tells us all we need to do. You didn't have to guess whether you were multiplying or dividing. You know, because that word is there. So another example of that. Tracy earns $118,000 in gross commissions for the year. Now that's a word we haven't seen yet, gross. Gross just means before you adjust it for expenses. You know, Well, when we make money in this business, we almost always have to spend some money. We have to pay for signs. We have to pay for marketing the property. We have to pay for staging the property. We have to pay, the fees to the Association of Realtors. Gross commissions just means the money we make before any of those expenses come out. Taxes, income taxes on the money, all kinds of expenses that come out. But gross means before the expenses. So it says Tracy earns $118,000 in gross commissions for the year. She does so while selling 9 properties. What is her commission per sale? So again, here's my question. What is her commission per sale? And there's that, me restating the question there. And we already talked about how the fact that per just means division. So I'm going to do a little bit of substitution here. I'm going to say, okay, well, commission, there's the commission, bring it down, substitute it. Per sale, well, there's the sales. How many? Oh, we sold 9, so I'm going to bring that down and substitute it, right? 9 sales. And the word between them is per. What's the commission per sale? So that means divide. 118,000 divided by 9 sales is $11,111 commission per sale. See, these are simple tools that are meant to help you tackle these ideas. Again, a lot of you don't need these tools, and that's great. A lot of you do, and that's also great, because now you have the tools to be able to tackle something like this and get it right. Now, a lot of folks freak out about rounding. Do I round? Do I not round? How many decimal points do I round to? Stop. Don't worry about it. Simply don't worry about it. In fact, the less you round in this class, the better off you are. Because the less you round, the more exact your answer is. The more you round, the less exacting your answer really is. The more, free play you've got in your final answer. So my recommendation is don't round. The only time I round in this class is when they actually say in the question, rounded to the nearest $100, rounded to the nearest dollar. When they actually tell you we want it to be rounded, then you have my permission to round. But only your final answer. Even then, you're only going to round your final answer. If it doesn't ask you for a rounded answer, don't round. No, don't bother rounding if it doesn't ask you for a rounded answer. Just stick to your guns. And what I recommend you do, what I think is appropriate, is to say, okay, and I know my share just stopped for just a second. I'm having a little bit of an issue with my share computer. It'll come back in just a second. I think one of the things that we can say with rounding is don't worry about it. Just write down 4 past the decimal. If you write down 4 past the decimal, you're always going to be just fine, because that's exact enough. So whatever number of decimal spots you have, just go 4 past that and leave it alone. Don't worry about the rounding. Don't stress yourself out over the rounding. It's not that big of a deal. I promise it's not that big of a deal. And it's certainly not something that I think you should worry yourself over. We're not done with the tips here. You might call them tricks. You can call them whatever you want to. Almost all the numbers that we use in this class are going to be listed as a percentage. A percentage is a number that really counts how many out of this group, not how many total. When we say 6% of something, we really don't mean 6. We mean 6 for every 100 of that thing. In other words, if you had 100 of that thing, 6 of them would be this. That's 6%. So 6% literally means 6 per 100. So pay attention to that. Percent literally means per 100. What do we already know about the word per? If 6% is the same thing here, and the word per means something to us, it means division, doesn't the phrase 6% really just mean 6 divided by 100? And the answer is yes, it does. I know a lot of you, when you took basic math, maybe in elementary school, middle school, high school, wherever you were when you took it, you were taught to move decimal places when it comes to percentages. And you can do that. It works. But in my experience, it's not, how should I say, reliable for a lot of people because they're nervous about it. They forget what they're doing. They forget, am I supposed to move the decimal this time? Am I not supposed to move the decimal? Am I supposed to move it one place or 2 or 3 or what is it? Here's the thing. If you can say the words 6%, then you can deal with the number 6% in your calculator. I want to show you what I mean. Now, 6%, here's the way they told you to do it in school. 6%, if you want to change it into a decimal so that you can use it in your calculator, you have to move the decimal 2 times. You have to go 6, and then you 1 and 2, and you got to put a 0 in so it becomes 0.06, right? And that's true. That works. I'm going to change my share for just a second with you, though. I want you to see how easy, in my opinion, this makes it to deal with 6%. I think, let me put up my calculator here. This is so much easier. So I'm sharing my calculator with you here, and this is just a calculator on the computer. What do we say? 6 per, which means divide, cent, which means 100. 6 divided by 100 equals, look at that. It's the exact same number, 0.06. And folks, you can do it with any percentage. Any percentage they give you, it works just fine. I'm going to clear that out. If they say 25%, you're just going to type 25 per, which means divide, cent, which means 100. 0.25. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to think about it at all. And here's the cool thing. You don't even have to write that number down separately. You're literally just going to get used to typing 6% or 25% into the calculator exactly like that. So let's go back for just a second and take a look at the slides here and show you how that might work with some other numbers. Because I think sometimes when you first see it, you're like, oh, what did he do? What did he do? It's not that complex. Because the truth is, folks, think about the percentage sign. Percentage sign is really just a division sign. It's been rotated a little bit. So take the division sign, keep twisting it around a little bit, you got a percentage sign. Per 100. Per 100, that's all we're doing is taking a number, whatever we say the number is, and then dividing it by 100 to get the percentages. That's how we deal with percentages. So 12% is 12 divided by 100. 4% is 4 divided by 100. 18%, 18 divided by 100. And that's exactly how you're going to type it in your calculator. Now, some of you like to use the percent button on the calculator. That's great. If your calculator has a percent button and it works and you're comfortable with it, fantastic. Here's the thing. What if that calculator breaks on the day you take the test and they give you one that doesn't have a percent button on it? Would you know what to do? Some of you like to move decimals, and that's great because it always works. The thing about moving decimals is you forget sometimes. You forget. Have I moved the decimal? Did I move it the right number of places? You make mistakes. If you will just get in the habit of forcing yourself to say 18% is 18 divided by 100, you will never get a percentage question wrong ever again. It really makes it that straightforward once you kind of isolate it down and say, okay, I see exactly what I'm going to do with that. Whenever I see something as a percentage, I'm just going to type that number into my calculator, and the per becomes a division sign, the cent becomes 100. So that whatever that number is divided by 100, there's my percentage. Once you start to tie all those ideas together, it really kind of starts to become fun to do math in this class. And I know people say, no, it doesn't. Yeah, it does. Because nothing is more satisfying than think you don't know how to do the math, and it turns out you really do. Look at this question. It says Seth is a listing broker and his office charges all sellers 5% of the total sales price when selling their home. If he closes a sale at $485,000, what will be the total commission earned on the deal? That is a very good example of a math question in this class. Sometimes people say, oh, it's confusing, it's a lot of words. That's why step number one is always going to be find the question. Find the question, isolate the question, get yourself ready to deal with just that part of it. Here's the question right here. What will be the total commission earned on the deal? There's our question. What will be the total commission? So step two is going to be, well, I'm going to answer that question in words. Well, they told me it's going to be 5% of the sales price. You don't even realize it. You just answered the math question. Because now you're just going to substitute things in. 5% of the sales price quickly becomes 5% of $485,000. Because the sales price is $485,000. They told us that. And then we're not done with our math tricks. We know that 5% is the same thing as 5 divided by 100. And we know that the word of means multiplication. If we string all that together, 5%, how are we going to type that into our calculator? 5 divided by 100, there's your 5%, of multiplication, $485,000. So again, I'm going to walk through that one more time. We're going to walk through that and we're going to talk about it. 5% becomes 5 divided by 100 of, there's your multiplication step. And then the $485,000. That's exactly how you're going to type it into your calculator. That is exactly how you're going to type it into the calculator. You're not going to make it any more complex than that. And if we do that, we will come up with, and I'll just take my calculator out here, and then I'll share my answer with you. So again, I'm going to type in 5 divided by 100. Okay, 5 divided by 100 times, just going to keep going, I'm not going to stop, $485,000 and hit equal. Oops, sorry, I hit equal too many times. Hard to do it. 5 divided by 100 times 485,000 equals. That's $24,250. $24,250. By simply using, you can call them tricks. I like to call them strategies. By simply using our strategies. By knowing that the words have meaning. Here's the good thing. When they give you the words, which means they've actually told you how to do the question. You don't have to guess. They told you what to do with the words already. Let's take a look at this one. It says Carla purchases a home and borrows 80% of the sales price. If she pays $318,500 for the property, how much will she owe back to Bank of America as her new loan balance? How much will she owe to Bank of America as her new loan balance? Notice what I'm doing there. I'm looking for the question first. I always want the question first. And there's the question. How much will she owe back to Bank of America as her new loan balance? That's the question I'm being expected to answer here. So I just kind of simplify that here. How much will she owe? This is the same question, by the way. I just got rid of the picture so we got some room to work. How much will she owe? That's my question. Now we want to answer the question in words. She's going to owe 80% of that sales price. That's what she's going to owe. 80% of the sales price. Okay. So if she owes 80% of the sales price, and I apologize, I'm not sure what's going on with my other machine. It keeps resetting on me here, but I'll keep talking while it does that. If she owes 80% of the sales price, folks, again, once we've put that into words, we've got an answer. We've already got an answer for ourselves. Whether you think we have or not, we've got the answer laid out right in front of us. Because when you take that question, and I should be getting back on here so I can share it one more time with you. When you take that question and you put those words there, she will owe 80% of the sales price. I'm going to pause this for just a second so I can get my, there we go. It just came back. See, I had to threaten it back into existence. When you get those words, she's going to owe 80% of the sales price. Here comes the share back again. 80%, we know that's 80 divided by 100. We know that. We know that's multiplication. And the sales price they gave us is $318,500. Literally, it just walked it out for us, how we're going to type it into the calculator. 80% becomes 80 divided by 100 of multiplication, $318,500. Her loan balance is $254,800. Folks, you need to, if you're struggling at all, go back through that and just look at how we're just playing a word game and we're substituting. Percent, divide by 100. 80%, 80 divided by 100. Done. Done with the 80% part. Of multiplication. Hit the multiplication button. Done with the of part. 318,500. It's just a number. Type it in the calculator. Hit equal. There's your final answer. It's that straightforward, and it's almost always going to be that straightforward in this class. We really don't do complex math in this class, and that's great for you if math is something that you feel you've struggled with. I got one more sort of trick that I want to introduce to you in this first little math session, and that is something called the T-bar. And some of you are not old enough to have been blessed to have lived long enough to know who that gentleman is on the left there, but his name is Mr. T. And I pity the fool who does not know who that is. That's a really bad joke from the 80s if you don't get it. But the T-bar is going to be your greatest gift when it comes to dealing with formulas in this class. Because one of the things that I think throws people off is we give them formulas, but they really don't know what to do with them necessarily. The T-bar is literally just a T. Make a T, draw a T. You can do it with circles, without circles. I mean, this one is drawn without circles. Or you can draw it like this, with a circle around it. You don't want to do it like that. Sorry, like that. Either way, it works. Doesn't matter if circle doesn't change anything. So if you feel better with the circle there, do it. If you don't feel better with the circle, don't do it. The T is the important part. The T is a visual tool to help you know what to do with the formula once you've remembered it. The T-bar does not help you remember the formula. You've got to remember the formula. You've got to remember the three things that are going to show up in this formula. Like, for example, on this formula right here, the three things are A, B, and C. You would have to remember that in this formula, A is on top, B and C are on the bottom, and that's never going to change. If you're dealing with a question that wants to know A, you're going to use this formula, A on top, B and C on the bottom. If you're dealing with a question that wants to know what B is, you're going to use the same formula. Don't move the things around. A is always going to be on the top. B and C are always going to be on the bottom. When we give you a formula in this class as a T-bar, don't ever move anything around. Just don't. If the commission is on the top, leave it there. It's always going to be there. Here's why. The location in the T-bar tells you whether you're going to multiply or divide. If two numbers are side by side in the T-bar, you multiply them. Like you look at B and C, they're side by side here. And that's why you see a multiplication symbol between them. Here's the good news. B and C, if you multiply them together, they give you A. Those two numbers, always, if you multiply them with each other, will give you the number on the top. So when you memorize one of these formulas, not only have you memorized the formula, you've told yourself exactly what math step it takes to use it. Here's the beauty of that. It also works the other way. If you look at something that's top and bottom, like A and B are top and bottom from each other here. Well, top and bottom things don't get multiplied. They get divided. A divided by B equals C. A divided by B equals C. And if you haven't figured out what the next step is that's coming so far, I'm about to hit you with it. A divided by C is equal to B. So it really doesn't matter what the question's asking you for, as long as you know the three things in the formula, which two are on the bottom and which one's on the top, you can't ever get it wrong. You know whether you're multiplying or dividing every single time. So I'm going to give you one of the most common math formulas in the world. And it's one that we use a little bit in this class because we have to measure homes and measure land every once in a while. But area, square footage. You learned this in 4th grade, 5th grade, first geometry lesson you had. You may have forgotten it. Area equals length times width. Well, this is what that looks like as a T-bar. Because if you look at it, length and width are beside each other. When two things are beside each other, what do we do with them? We multiply. Well, length times width equals area. Length times width equals area. And we could also work it the other way. What if they ask us, oh, well, what is the length of that one side of the property? Well, you would say, okay, well, give me the area and divide it by the width, and that'll give me the length. Or if you give me the area and you give me the length, then I can say area divided by length. Well, that gives me the width. Notice I never moved anything in the T-bar. The T-bar stays exactly the same. So your challenge for these formulas is going to be to memorize the three things that are in a math formula. Each math formula we give you is going to have three things in it. One of them is always going to be on the top and the other two are going to be on the bottom. Now that's a memorization thing. You're going to have to make a flashcard for it. Good news is once you got it memorized, you'll never get it wrong. You might have known that area equals length times width. You might have known that. Very quick off the top of your head. But I bet if I had to ask you, well, what does width equal? Yeah, let me think. Yeah, I gotta do. Wait a minute. You don't have to think here. If I want to know what width equals, I'm just going to say, well, width equals, and then I'm going to write the other two things down, area and length, and I'm going to look. Well, they're top and bottom from each other. If they're top and bottom, the math is division. Width equals area divided by length. And I could literally do that with anything in here. If I said, okay, what is the length of that side of the property? I want to know the length of that side of the property. You could go, okay, well, length is going to be equal to area and width. And since they're top and bottom, the math is going to be division. Area divided by width. Notice I'm not moving anything, ever. So how does that work when you put numbers with it? What is the length of one side of a lot that has an area of 15,000 square feet and a width of 100 feet? What is the length of one side of a lot that has an area of 15,000 square feet and a width of 100 feet? Okay, so here's the thing. They want to know the length. I can write out my formula. Length equals area and width. And since they're top and bottom, I know that's going to be division between the two of them. Area divided by width. So length is going to equal 15,000 divided by 100. Because the area up there at the top is 15,000. The width down there at the bottom is 100. Top and bottom means divide. 15,000 divided by 100. That means the length of that side of the property is 150 feet. That's how you use a T-bar. Now, we have not quite reached a point yet of implementing the T-bar, but I want you, just as part of this introduction, to familiarize yourself with, okay, this is how I'm going to be expected to learn math formulas in the class. This is what's going to be expected of me as far as learning math formulas. Now, I'm going to share with you again here for just a second a math worksheet which is uploaded in Learn Test Pass with this video, and it's called Percentage Calculations Introduction. And this just again goes through and makes sure you're very comfortable with the basics of our little tools and coping mechanisms, so that when we really do get into the actual math of the class coming up very soon, you don't feel like you're left behind. So look at this first question here. What is 12% of $150,000? What is 12% of $150,000? Well, let's take a look at this and think about it. 12%. We know that 12% is the same thing as 12 divided by 100. We know that, right? 12% is 12 divided by 100. We also know that the word of is multiplication. So 12 divided by 100 times, and then the 150,000, we don't need to do anything with that because it's just a number they gave us. We're ready now, folks, to type that into our calculator. We've got all the numbers we need there. So pick up your calculator and do 12 divided by 100 times 150,000. That's 18,000. There's your answer. 18,000. Look at number 2. Calculate 6% of $387,000. Well, I'm going to do the same thing. 6% is the same thing as 6 divided by 100. So I've dealt with that. Of. I know that word means multiplication in this class. So I've dealt with that. 387,000 I don't need to do anything with except write it down. Now I've got all the numbers I need to type into my calculator. So 6 divided by 100 times 387,000. That is 23,220. And it's dollars because it says of dollars. Okay. Look at number 3 here. Number 3 says if there are 900 balls in the bucket, okay? If there are 900 balls in the bucket and 9% of the balls, how many 9% of the balls are red, how many red balls are in the bucket? We'll clear my other ones out so I can scroll down here. Good thing about the video, you can always back it up if you need to. If there are 900 balls in the bucket, and 9% of the balls are red, How many red balls are in the bucket? Well, here's the thing. 9% of 900 are red. See, I love writing this out in words. 9% of 900 are red. And they want to know how many red. So let's start changing. 9% becomes 9 divided by 100. Of becomes multiplication. 900 we don't need to do anything with because it gave it to us. So 9 divided by 100 times 900, 81 red balls. 81. Look at number 4. Travis sells his home for $250,000 and pays his real estate brokerage firm a commission amounting to 5% of the sales price. What is the total commission paid by the seller in the transaction? What is the total commission paid by the seller in the transaction? Okay. Travis sells his home for $250,000 and pays his real estate brokerage firm a commission amounting to 5% of the sales price. What is the total commission paid by the seller in the transaction? Well, it looks like to me the total commission is 5% of the sales price. Which is the same thing as 5% of $250,000. Okay? 5% of the $250,000. Well, we know that the 5%, I'll stick with the color coding, 5% equals 5 divided by 100. That's how I'm going to type that in my calculator. I'm going to type that as multiplication. $250,000, I'm going to leave it alone because it gave it to me. So I'm ready now. 5 divided by 100 times 250,000. That's $12,500 in commission. Every single time. Look at number 5. Sally works as a buyer's agent on a sale, and her firm is compensated 2.5% of the total sales price of $172,500. What is the firm's compensation for representation of this buyer? Well, there's our question. What is the firm's compensation for representing the buyer? My answer to that question is, well, they're making 2.5% of sales price. $2.5% of the sales price, which is the same thing as 2.5% of 172.5, because they gave us that number. So now we're ready to do our little game. 2.5% is 2.5 divided by 100. Of 2.5% of is multiplication. And then we're going to stick with the 172.5. Ready to type it in now. 2.5 divided by 100 times 172,500. That is $4,312.50. And again, It works because we follow a strategy. We follow that strategy over and over and over. And as long as we follow the strategy, we'll never have to worry about getting them wrong. Look at this one, number 6. It says Ahmad purchases a new home with a $285,000 sales price and finances the purchase by borrowing 80% of the total purchase price. 80% of the total purchase price. Okay, so I'm going to look at that and I'm going to write it out for myself. I'm going to say, okay, 80% of the purchase price is the same thing as 80% of, and they give me a sales price of $285,000, or a purchase price of $285,000. And I know that 80% is just 80 divided by 100. I know that of is just multiplication. I know I don't have to do anything with 285,000 because that's the number they gave me. Just write that down. I'm ready to do my math. 80 divided by 100 times 285,000. That's $228,000. Repeat, repeat, repeat. Even when it gets more complex. It doesn't really get more complex. Look at number 7. A home has increased in value by 15% since it was last sold for $218,000. What's its new value? So it went up by 15%. But here's the thing. Did it start from 0%? Or did it start from 10%? Or did it went up by 15, but where did it start from? I need to know where it started from. With percentages, everything starts at 100%. Whether it goes up or down, it starts at 100%. 100% is always your starting point when you're going up or down with percentages. And we'll say that one more time. 100% is your starting point. So 100% start. And then we went up. We increased by 15%. We're now ready to write that out in words for ourselves. What we have is 115% of the sales price, or of the value. Well, they gave us the sales price. That's 115% of $218,000. And we know with our little coping tricks, 115% is just 115 divided by 100. Notice it didn't change. 115% divided by 100. Of means multiplication. $218,000. 115% of $218,000, that's going to be 115 divided by 100 times 218,000. Our new value, folks, is $250,700. Look at number 8. You get to practice that again. It says Tommy works for Wake County approving new construction homes. Last year, 28,000 new homes were approved. This year, Tommy has seen an increase of 8%. How many new homes have been approved this year? Well, again, whenever you see that word increase or decrease with percentages, you have to ask yourself, what was my starting point? Remember, starting point is always the same place with percentages. We always start at 100%. Okay? So we plused 8%. Just add them together. That's 108%. So that's 108% of what it did last year, which is 28,000 new homes last year. And we know that the 108% is just 108 divided by 100. We know that the of is just multiplication, and then the 28,000 just gets carried down. So 108 divided by 100 times 28,000. This year, Tommy is approving 30,240 homes after the increase. And you can sort of mentally check your math. It's a bigger number than it was last year. Should be. Said it increased by 8%. If it had said decrease, we would have expected a smaller number, but it said increase, so we expect a bigger number. And that's what we got. An 8% increase. Well, 8% increase from where? From our starting point. And our starting point was a percentage whenever we have and that's we only use that when we have an increase or decrease. But when it says increase or decrease, we have to start from somewhere. Start from 100%. Work your way up or work your way down. Then we got one more here to look at. Scroll down here. Oh, actually, we got a couple more. Number 9 says Latasha is a sales agent who earned $122,000 in sales commissions last year. Unfortunately, she's seen a 7% decrease in her income this year due to illness that has kept her home. What is her income this year? Poor Latasha has made less money. That is just not acceptable. You always got to make more the next year. More. That's the way it works. But Latasha has taken a step back. She's backed up a little bit. So she decreased. But she decreased from where? Whenever we have an increase or a decrease, we start at 100%. And it says she decreased. So instead of adding this time, we're going to subtract. 100 minus 7, that's 93%. So what we're saying is that Latasha has made 93% of last year's income, which was $122,000. She's made 93% of the income she made last year, which was $122,000. Well, we know that 93% is 93 divided by 100. We know that of is multiplication. We know we're going to use that 122,000 because it's the number they gave us that we have to work with. We're ready for math. 93 divided by 100 times 122,000. This year, Latasha's income has come down to $113,460, which makes sense because she made less. She made less this year than she made last year, which is what it should have been because it said she had a decrease. Last one. When looking at the sales prices of homes in a particular neighborhood, Carlos noted that the prices had decreased in the neighborhood over the previous year by roughly 14%. That's a big drop in a year for home prices in a neighborhood. 14% drop. Based on this information, what would be the new valuation of a home that had been worth $426,000 previously? So it was worth $426,000 last year, but values dropped by 14% over the course of the year. That's a decrease of 14%. Well, our starting point is always 100%. That part does not change. A decrease is subtraction, so we went down by 14%. And you can certainly use your calculator and just go 100 minus 14. If you don't know that off the top of your head, that's 86%. So what we're working with here is 86% of the previous value, which was 426. 86% of what we started with, and we started with $426,000 in value. Well, that's 86 divided by 100. Of is multiply, and our starting point was the 426. So we're ready for math. 86 divided by 100 times 426,000. That is a new value. That house has come down to $366,360 this year from last year. Somebody not gonna be happy. I'll be a little bit upset on that one. But look at how much you're able to work with those numbers and manipulate them by simply knowing those tips and tricks that we've talked about. These will carry you so far through the class. And again, what I want to stress to you more than anything is that you can do the math in this class. This is not going to be some overwhelming challenge to you. This is not going to be something that's going to kill you in this class. So if you're good on this, you can file it away. You don't need to watch this video again. If you feel pretty good, but you got some roughness, go back through it again. If you're lost, definitely go back through it again. And if you've gone back through it again and you're still lost, send me an email. Let me know, because we need to get that fixed for you. It's got to get fixed early. You have to speak up for yourself, because if you don't get it fixed early, you won't be able to handle the math as we get to it in the class. But I hope this has helped, because this is going to be basic sort of building blocks that we're going to use over and over and over. All right, get back to studying. Good luck.